Hey everybody, welcome back to BobkeTV and another edition of the Broom Wagon, the good, the bad, the ugly, from a spectacular week in racing. I think the best so far this year. We got the Neutral Zone News, the Musette Musings, and of course, the tweet of the week. All of that on the Broom Wagon. All right, first up on the Broom Wagon, the good, the bad, and the ugly from Pais Basque. Pais Basque, a stage race in northern Spain in the Basque country. It's like the Tour of Spain in 1 week of racing, or less than a week, a little bit less than a week of racing. Incredibly tough and almost unknown outside of the Basque country, and anybody competing, anybody finishing, anybody racing and winning, as Primož Roglič had done, is just an absolutely phenomenal athlete. Pais Basque never gets easier, always gets harder. So the good, Julian Alaphilippe, and Quickstep, by the way, on fire. Alaphilippe rampaging on stage number 1 and on stage number 2 in the leader's jersey, basically pointing to the finish line and saying, adios, everybody, and absolutely stomping to 2 stage wins, stage 1 and 2 in the leader's jersey. Take a quick look at this little video. No shortage of bike handling skills either. Great riding by Julian Alaphilippe. He's going to be very competitive in the Ardennes Classic, barring disaster. So watch for Julian Alaphilippe to keep this momentum going in Liège-Bastogne-Liège and Flèche-Wallonne, most certainly. One word to Julian Alaphilippe, if he's listening, maybe take it a little bit easier when you're feeling good, and you would have finished higher in the overall standings, most certainly. But be that as it may, 2 great stage wins and a few days in the leader's jersey for Julian Alaphilippe. Jay McCarthy, sprint win on stage number 3 for a Hansgrohe sprinter in the absence of Peter Sagan. More greatness from Peter the Great in a little bit at Paris-Robuaix, but a good win by Jay McCarthy. And it's nice when you have a big superstar on a team like Bora, and the other riders contribute to the wins also, besides your big star in Peter Sagan, even though that's perfectly adequate for Bora so far. In the time trial, it was Primož Roglič taking the lead, getting the win, and he would keep that lead all the way to the finish. Very tough week of racing, like I mentioned. Burnt all of his Lotto Jumbo teammates to a crisp, including Sepp Kuss. And a shout out to Sepp. Baptism by fire. It's one of the most miserable races that no one's ever heard of. But good job. BobkeTV is saying keep an eye on Sepp in the racing to come, including, if I'm not mistaken, Tour of California, and a solid defense of Roglic's lead, which he went on to win. And watch this little video, the ski jumping, perfect landing after the time trial. Omar Freile, stage win also, and Enric Mas, also of Quickstep, getting their 3rd stage win of the Pais Basque race, also to the good. Let's take a quick look at some of the bad. This is Lawson Craddock getting a little bit too wide in this corner, and kapow! Ooh! Annihilates this car, by the way. Windshield gone, front hood smashed in, and walks away from this crash. Very lucky for Lawson Craddock. But the race promoters have got to get the parked cars off of the race course. I mean, it's not entirely possible all the time. But Pais Basque has been plagued in the past by these kind of issues. And it's a very dangerous race. It just adds, that tension adds to the misery. So luckily, Lawson Craddock was able to walk away from that. That is it from Pais Basque. An ugly crash. Let's take a look at the Tour of Thailand. I mean, holy smolies. Closing in on the finale here, a few hundred meters to go. The 3rd rider in line, if we look at this, he goes down and just like bowling pins, just wipes out half of the field. And answer me this. How does this guy's wheel get separated from his bike and bounce back towards the peloton? Horrible. Let's move on to the Scheldeprijs. Scheldeprijs, a sprinter's race, semi-classic. Fabio Jakobsen, quick step again. This sprint, however, as impressive as it was from Fabio Jakobsen, who we're going to be hearing a lot about in the future, there was not the full complement of sprinters at the finish that there should have been, because Dylan Groenewegen, Arnaud Demar, Hodge, all of them disqualified because a level crossing was coming down train tracks and the gate closing just as the group with Groenewegen and Demar came to it, and it was within just a few moments. But Groenewegen admitted he saw the light come on, so he knew he had to stop, but he's in a group. They easily made it across safely, but that is not what the rule is. And let me state the rule here. Here's a look at it. When the barrier is coming down or closing, or a signal is ringing or flashing, you have to stop. That is the rule. Also, by the way, it's against the law, and you could be subject to the traffic penalty for that, which is pretty significant in Europe because they've had so many problems with this, and it's incredibly dangerous. Also, you could face a 1-month suspension from racing from the UCI. So this group of riders disqualified, and I believe it was the right call. We cannot have a bunch of riders trying to get around a gate or a flashing light or a ringing bell and get hit by a train. You can only imagine how horrifying that would be. So the UCI has to be very strict. A little bit of ugly also from the Scheldeprijs. How did this car get out on the race course? Fine, UCI, you're going to enforce the level crossing for trains rule, but please, please keep the cars off the race course. Thank you. Let's move on to Paris-Roubaix and the great, the very good, and the good. To start with, Peter the Great Sagan. Give me the brick. 53 Ks to go. Adios. Boom time. Peter Sagan. Also reminiscent of Philippe Gilbert's audacious solo in last year's Tour of Flanders. And also Tom Boonen, 2012 Paris-Roubaix, 55 kilometers out. Boonen saying so long to the field. And Peter Sagan catching the breakaway. Only Sylvain Dillier able to stay with him. Get to him in a second. But I predicted way back in December, if you remember, that Peter Sagan would win Paris-Roubaix. And just last week, doing a preview of Paris-Roubaix, I thought he would. And I just believe his characteristics are, as a bike racer, perfectly suited to this event. His balance, his power, his endurance, his bike handling skills, second to none. And it was just a matter of time before Peter Sagan won Paris-Roubaix. The way it happened, with a lot of pressure building throughout the year, and Peter Sagan seeming to be at his best at times, Gent-Wevelgem, and not so good Tour of Flanders and before that. So it was very, very interesting to see the way Peter Sagan, his confidence, never panicking, never responding, by the way, and we'll get to that in a little bit in the musings, what some of the commentary was before Paris-Roubaix regarding Peter Sagan, but all of his critics, time for them to shut their mouths. And Peter Sagan going for the win. I would be remiss if I didn't admit that having picked him beforehand, it wasn't a little bit more special for me personally. And just an incredible ride. Everybody around the world has seen Peter Sagan's win, and a very, The timing was perfect. His attack was perfect. The way he rode the cobbles, no flat tires, no crashes, and that was, in my way of thinking, that was going to happen at one point or another, and it happened in 2018 for Peter Sagan. One of his greatest wins in a career that's already been marked by incredible wins all over the calendar. Very good. Sylvain Dillier was in the breakaway throughout the race. It took a while for the break to get started. The gap went up. He had a very good group with him and was the last man standing with Peter Sagan. Sylvain Dillier can go. He's got a big motor. He's been a part of the BMC squad and their world championship winning team time trials for a number of years. Changed teams to AG2R, got a chance to race for himself. Olivier Nason, his team captain, sent them in the breakaway, and he made the most out of it by being able to stay with Peter Sagan and finishing second. It probably wasn't going to be Peter in a big monument like that after 260 kilometers, over 6 hours of racing, but a very, very good ride, bordering on great by Sylvain Dillier. Also good, Taylor Phinney. He had a tremendous day and showed his true ability. Working for Sepp Van Mark, Taylor finished 8th. Sepp Van Mark finished 6th, so 2 EF riders in the top 10. But Taylor Phinney, he has the ability to win Paris-Roubaix in his career. And let's hope that the morale he has got to get from this will help him in the years to come and really focus on Paris-Roubaix as a race he can win. No American winners. George Hincapie has come the closest, finishing second on one occasion. I believe Greg LeMond also had a very good Paris-Roubaix in his career. But Taylor Phinney, maybe the American rider with the most potential to win Paris-Roubaix. Fingers crossed that happens in the near future. Some bad. As usual, massive pileups, and take a quick gander at them here. Highlight of pileups. This one involving Alexander Kristoff, outside rider to do well, not maybe to win. First section of cobbles, Geraint Thomas in this, and out. Geraint Thomas, one of the protected riders of Sky, and Team Sky, not a lot to write home about from Paris-Roubaix. Bad luck for Team Sky. Also bad, where was Quick-Step when Peter Sagan attacked with the rainbow stripes? Rainbow stripes, Peter Sagan goes up the road. You gotta chase. You gotta go all in immediately. And I just think it was a question that Sagan was too strong. He picked the right moment when Quick-Step were regrouping for a little bit. Stybar had been in the break. Philippe Gilbert had gone away. A little bit of a regrouping, and Sagan's like, boom, this is my time. And in the shuffle of reorganizing the chase and the dynamics of the race, Quick-Step left behind for the first time this whole spring. It's been an incredible and unbelievably successful spring for Quick-Step. So it was Nicky Terpstra that wound up third, so not a total loss for Quick-Step, but they maybe could have been a little bit less aggressive earlier and had more firepower in the finale. I don't think that would have beaten Sagan at the end of the day anyways. So great spring by Quick-Step. They've, like I said, won nearly everything. And Nicky Terpstra, wow, third, Paris-Roubaix. An incredible, incredible spring for Quick-Step and Nicky Terpstra. Also, Paris-Roubaix marked by tragedy, and my deepest condolences to the Michael Gollards family and friends and team. Heart attack while competing in Paris-Roubaix, and my most heartfelt sympathies for the entire Gollards team, friends, and family. There's been some discussion on the internet about whether or not Paris-Roubaix should have been stopped because of that incident, but I think that would have been very difficult to do, especially he was transported by helicopter to a trauma center, and the pronouncement didn't come until after the race was over, and of course the entire peloton expressing their deepest condolences across the board. And the old ticker, you know, it just can you don't want to say it can stop at any time. And I'm going to get to in the musings the protocol that cycling has in place for heart health, and I don't believe that Paris-Roubaix should have been stopped. It was just too early to tell what was going to happen to Michael. Eventually, he did succumb to that heart attack, but to speculate that they should have stopped Paris-Roubaix in hindsight is I don't think the right move. But anyways, that's it. The good, the bad, and the ugly from this week. A spectacular race week it was. And next up, the neutral zone news. Okay, everybody, in the neutral zone news, Amgen Tour of California has announced the teams and some of the riders. And I am thrilled to announce it's going to be one of the best sprint fields we've seen all year. Mark Cavendish coming back after some very trying races this spring. 3 bad crashes, broken ribs, injured ankle, but all of that behind him, and Mark Cavendish will take the start line at Tour of California. Marcel Kittel, Peter Sagan, and Caleb Ewan at the very least. Amongst many others. So those are just some of the sprint stars that are going to be there. Great race course laid out, and also you can go to their website to see all of that. Starts in Long Beach, finishes in Sacramento, visits Gibraltar, the highlights, Lake Tahoe, Central Coast. It's going to be a spectacular race, not to be missed. Cycling. And they've also announced the invited teams. And so it's going to be the Holo Wesco squad, Rally Cycling, who's had a great run of success in North America, in the biggest races, by the way, recently. United Healthcare will be there. And Axel Merckx's team, Action Hagens Berman, on the start line at Tour of California. Not invited last year, and it's good for me to see this development squad. They did step up to the pro continental level, and so they got the invite to the Tour of California. On the women's side, stellar field on the women's side. Corinne Rivera, Katie Hall, Megan Guarnier, and we may very well get a chance to see Chloe Dygert-Owen racing, and I'm really, really looking forward to that if it does transpire. Chloe Dygert-Owen, if you haven't heard of her, look up her results. I'm pretty sure everybody at this point has heard of her. She might be the most talented women's racer in the world today, and that's saying a lot, but she's already won nearly everything there is to win on the track. And if she does transition into road racing, look out. The few road races she has done have been very successful. So if she does compete in the women's Amgen Tour of California, it's going to be great to watch her race. Okay, everybody. Next up is the music musings. Okay, everybody, Tom Boonen making headlines for maybe not the best reasons in the music musings. Tom Boonen opened up last week by saying Peter Sagan needs to keep his mouth shut. Tom Boonen responding to some of Peter Sagan's criticisms of the peloton when Peter Sagan mentioned that if everybody lets the Quick-Step team dictate the tactics, they are going to win all the races Quick-Step is because they're so strong. I did posit, maybe not in the same way. Nobody needs to keep their mouth shut. Everybody's free to speak their mind. And I think we're going to get to a couple of more juicy tidbits from Tom Boonen, but this is Peter's response. Who loves you, baby? And I mean, it would be easy to take the bait for Peter Sagan, get fired up, say, here's my 3 world titles, blah, blah, blah. Here's my green jersey. But Peter didn't do that. Taking the higher ground, and the high ground so high in Peter Sagan's case, all we can do is just look at it and aspire to reacting to criticism in the same way. So perfect response from Peter Sagan. And then, of course, we know now, stomp the guts out of the field in Paris-Robuaix a few days later. So Peter Sagan is a brilliant bike racer. There's no doubt about it. Boonen going on to say that he's not sure Fabian Cancellara did not use a motor in the oh my God. And rather than once and for all say, 8 years ago when that happened, no way they had the technology to make a difference. The battery was this big, and the motor, like, are you kidding me? Boonen not doing that. And throwing some more gasoline on the Cancellara motor fire. It's just not possible. It's just not rational. It's not a logical thing to consider. And you're talking about Fabian Cancellara. Did he have a motor every time he won anything? Which, by the way, includes the the Olympic time trialing title from just a couple years ago in Rio. So, come on, everybody. Boonen digging himself further into a hole. I will quote directly regarding the Chris Froome situation. To call salbutamol doping is ridiculous. Okay, that's fine. But the rule is you get 1,000 nanograms per milliliter of salbutamol, and to have 2,000 is against the rules. So I'm not sure if Tomica, what he's exactly saying, but I guess he feels that Chris Froome should be let off the hook for twice the amount of salbutamol during stage 18 of last year's Volta a España. I disagree. I think it is an infraction of the rules and should be penalized as such. What I'm worried about with Tom Boonen, though, is he turns into one of these deeply embittered ex-professionals where all the current riders are horrible. And this is pretty common in all sports, let's be honest. I was so much better than... I'll be honest, I'll be perfectly honest. I find myself thinking... that, but I always try to remind myself these dudes are awesome and our sport is fantastic. So everybody up, please hold my feet to the fire if I turn into one of these critical ex-pros and you get the impression that they were so much better than the current generation. So please keep me honest on that, everybody. Thank you very much. And go to the comment section. I want to extend my appreciation of everybody's comments, keeping it nice and clean. A good way to express yourself without the vitriol we see pretty commonplace in most comment sections. Also in the Musette Musings, the heart health protocol that UCI has in place, very vigorous, very strenuous. Each rider every year has to go through the examination, electrocardiogram also every other year. And I think we do have a very robust heart health screening process in cycling, and maybe that electrocardiogram could be once a year rather than every other year. That would be my only suggestion. Tough sport, but I would be curious, and maybe you can help me out there. The normal rate of heart failure in the age group, let's say 20 to 40, just to be comprehensive about it. If professional cycling has more, the same, or less than your general population might be an important part of the discussion. I'd be happy to hear anybody's comments on that. All right, next up, tweet of the week. Here it is from Movistar's Carlos Barbera. a photo of his hands torn to shreds because of the cobbles. Whew. Let me try to translate this real quick. The hell has embraced my hands. After 200 kilometers, it became impossible to grip the bars securely. The cobbles will tear you up. Oh, the horror. That is a good tweet of the week to end with. Thanks everybody for watching. Until next time.